Alright, hi kids. Hopefully you're not being a jerk to the sub. Many of you are looking at me right now, so you can remember this on Friday that I was talking in class. But, alright, so here we go. So, first thing I want you to do is take out your homework from Friday, and you're going to check over the answers. So, just remind you how we take these video notes. Make sure if I'm going too fast, you pause it. If I'm going too quickly, well, kind of just listen and pay attention. But the first thing we're going to do, we're not going to do the warm-up. We're actually just going to go and check over these homework assignment from last night. So let's let's just take a peek at what we got going on here. Go away. Go away. Come on, why is that over here? Okay, so there you go again. Just check over your notes. I'm going to go through this really fast. So pause it when you want to see something. Alright, so check over those. As soon as you're good to go, we're going to get started today. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to find square roots and cube roots of a number, and then we're going to solve equations using square roots today. Alright, so many of you might have heard of square roots. You might have heard of the word square before, like to square something. And yes, squaring a number, as you might be saying, squaring something means that it's to the power of 2. This means squared. So today what we're going to do is we're going to square root something, and we're going to talk about what square rooting means. And then also we're also going to talk about what cube rooting means. What does it mean to cube root something? So here we go. So square roots and cube roots. So this right here is a square root. This is what a square root looks like. It looks like a check mark. It's called a root or a radical sign, right? The number underneath that is what we are rooting, or really what we're working with, all right? A square root is the opposite of squaring something. So I say here, like, the square root of n is the opposite of squaring n. So the square and the square roots are opposite each other, just like plus signs and minus signs are opposites, and multiplication and division signs are opposites. Square root and little squaring of some number, that little number on top, they're opposites of each other. So they kind of like undo what's being done. So today, we're going to be square rooting numbers. All right, so basically when evaluating square roots, you need to ask yourself this question right here. What number multiplied by itself will equal the number under the square root? All right, so here's an example right here. So I got this example, the square root of 4. So what you're going to ask yourself is, what number multiplied by itself will equal 4? So what number times its exact self, so times the exact same number, will give you 4? Now I picked an easy one because the only two numbers that are exactly the same that will equal 4 are 2 and 2, because 2 times 2 is 4. So the square root of 4 is 2. So the answer is 2. Now we can do this with a bunch of numbers. Here, think about this. If I were to give you the square root of, let's say, the square root of 9, you want to ask yourself, what two numbers multiplied together, what two exact same numbers multiplied together will give you 9? So the only two numbers that will do this are 3 times 3. So the square root of 9 equals 3. That's your answer. It's 3. Now, some of you are probably saying, all right, well, I'm not the best mental math person, so can we use your calculator? Yeah, you can use your calculator, and it's actually pretty easy. So there actually are only 3 keys that you're going to need to touch, and I have the pictures of them here. You're going to hit the second button, then you're going to hit the x squared button, then you're going to type in the number that's underneath your square root. So in the problem up here, you would type in a 4, and then you hit the equal sign. All right, so I have like a little demonstration of what we would do. So if we were to type this first equation that I gave you into our calculator, this is actually what it's going to look like. All right, so I kind of have a big picture of it here, so you can see this is the calculator that you all have. So that's the second button. It's the blue button, or it's like a different color button that's up in the top. So you're going to click that. Now once you click that, it's going to look just like this. Notice nothing really happens except for you see this little second symbol right here. That means it's activating the second power. So it's using all those little things that are above each button. So once you hit second, now you're going to go and look for the X squared button. Now the X squared button is right next to 7. So you're going to hit that. And once you hit that, now you should have this little check mark with a parenthesis, and that's your square root. So now you're going to take the square root of whatever number you want. So in the first example we had, it was a square root of 4. So you're going to actually put 4, you're going to type the number 4 in your calculator, and your calculator screen should look just like mine. And then once you hit 4, now you just hit enter. Now you just go and hit the enter sign or the equal sign. And I showed you where the equal sign is. There it is, right down there. Hit that, and you get 2. It's pretty awesome. All right. And that's how you can do that in your calculator. So I can give you any type of number. And all you have to do is just really type it in your calculator and see what it's going to give you. So with that said, let's try some of these. Now, some of you might be able to do this in your head. Some of you might need a calculator. Guess what? It really doesn't matter if you can do it in your head. All that matters is you know how to do it in general. Can you use your calculator? Can you do it in your head, or do you need to do it in both ways? So, all right, what I want you to do is I want you to try these following 9 examples. I want you to pause the video, and then I want you to press play and see if you got your answers correctly through your calculator, okay? So pause the video. All right, so you're done now with these examples. So here's the answers. So the square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 0.81 is 0.9. The square root of 9 over 25. Now in your calculator, it would look like this. Square root, and then you got the parenthesis. All you had to do was go 9 divided by 25. Now you may not have gotten that. You may have tried to do ABC. I'm not a big fan of ABC with this. Use the division symbol, and then you could close your parenthesis, you don't have to, and then you hit the equal sign, and you should have gotten 3 over 5 or 0.6. That's what you should have gotten, okay? Number 4, negative, so you would have had to actually put negative first in your calculator, then square root of 121, and you would have gotten negative 11. This symbol right here means plus or minus, and we're going to talk about that on the second part of our notes. But plus or minus means that your answer is actually 2 answers. It's the positive and the negative of that number. So plus or minus square root 0.25 is plus or minus 0.5. So you have 2 answers actually in that problem. You got positive 0.5 and negative 0.5. Number 6. Now, number 6. Hopefully you all typed this in your calculator a bunch of times and we're like, God, I'm not getting an answer. It keeps saying undefined or non-real answer, and that's because it's not real. And I want to take a second and think about this. All right. If you were to just forget about negative and just did the square root of 625 without the negative in there, the positive square root of 625 is actually 25. All right. So your answer is 25, because 25 times 25 equals 625. So I just want you to think for a second. Is there any way in the world that you can multiply 2 identical numbers and get a negative number? Could we ever get a negative number by multiplying 2 identical numbers together? The answer is no. The only way to get a negative number would we have to multiply negative 25 times positive 25. And those aren't identical. One's negative, one's positive. So that doesn't work. So our answer here is no real solution. It's not real. In a couple classes from now, you're going to learn that that actually is an imaginary answer. So we just say it's not real right now. It's not real. You can't do that. All right, so back to what we're doing here. Number 7 is plus or minus 0.2. Number 8 is negative 7. Now notice the difference between 6 and 7. The negative is on the outside of your square root, not on the inside, just like number 5. And then lastly, number 9 is 9 over 13. Or what is 9 divided by 13? I'm sure your calculator may have given you a parenthesis or a decimal. 0.6923. And there you go. So those are the answers you should have gotten. You use your calculator, or maybe some of you might have been able to do some of these in your head, and that's awesome. So let's go to the back side of your notes now. All right, come on now. Where are we at? One more. There we go. All right, so now additionally, we're not just going to be talking about square roots. We're going to talk about cube roots here. Now, cube roots, all right, are almost identical to square roots, but the cube root, it looks like this. It's kind of hard to see, but it's like a 3 with a root and then a number here. All right, and the 3 basically is saying what number times itself 1 time, 2 time, 3 time. 3 identical numbers will give you something. So it's not just 2 times, like a square root was 2 numbers multiplied to itself. Now it's 3 numbers that are identical to itself that give you a number. So I gave you an easy one here, and some of you might be like, well, this is difficult, but the cube root of 8, you want to ask yourself, what number multiplied by its exact self 3 times will give you 8? And that is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So the cube root of 8 is 2. Now, cube roots, myself and Miss Fitzharris do not expect you to do that in your head. If you can, that is amazing. That's awesome. Be proud of that. But I struggle sometimes with cube roots, all right? So what I do is I use my calculator, and this is going to be very important that you know and remember these keystrokes. Now these keystrokes are going to be almost identical to square root, but here's the only difference. The first number when doing a cube root is you have to hit 3. You have to hit the number 3 because 3 is going to allow us to kind of do the third root. Because your calculator, if you were to look and take some time and look at your calculator, you wouldn't see a button on there. There's no button on your calculator or nothing that has the third root of something. There's nothing that has that. All right, at least on the TI calculators that you have. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to hit 3, then you're going to hit second, and then you're going to not hit that X square, but now you're going to hit caret. This button is called caret. All right, C-A-R-R-O-T-T, like a vegetable. It's your caret. And then you type in your number and hit enter. So let's try this right now. Let's take the last problem. Let's take the third root of 8, and let's put that in our calculator. So the first thing you're going to do is hit the button 3, then you're going to hit the button second, then you're going to hit the button the caret, and that on your calculator should almost look like this. Your calculator, what you should see in your calculator, right? Your screen should look like this right now. It should be like 3 and then like X root parenthesis. That's what it's going to look like. But that means that the third, that 3 is actually where that X is. It's like the third root. And so after you've done the caret, now what you're going to do is you're going to type in the number 8 and then hit equals. And your calculator screen should have 2 on it. You should have the answer of 2. Now, what I want you to do is, with all the same stuff we were doing before, I want you to try these examples 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Pause the video, try them, and see if you get the right answers. Again, you're going to need to type these buttons in your calculator in order to do this. So pause your video, and then we'll get started. All right, so here we go. So you're rocking and rolling, so let's check to see if you got the right answers. So the cube root of 27 is 3, because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. The cube root of 27 over 125, that is going to be 3 over 5 or 0.6, however your calculator may have given it to you. Now, some of you might have been saying right away with number 12, no real answer, just like the last ones. Well, here's the thing. In cube roots, you actually can have a negative answer, because a negative times a negative times a negative will actually give you a negative answer, and you can do a cube root. So your answer of the cube root of negative 8 is actually negative 2. Number 13, the cube root of 1,000 is 10. Number 14, now just like square roots, that plus or minus, your answer will be plus or minus on the outside. So the cube root of 727, sorry, 729 is 9, so it's plus or minus 9. And then lastly, the cube root of 0.216 is 0.6. All right, so those are your answers, and that's cube rooting. So here's our last thing for today. All right, and that is called solving a square root or cube root equation. So like I said at the beginning, square roots and cube roots, well, mostly squaring and rooting are opposites of each other. All right, so like I have this review up here. All right, if you were to solve x plus 3 equals 5, how would you solve for x? Well, you would say, well, x is being added by 3, so I'm going to undo this problem by subtracting 3. So you would end up getting x equals 5 minus 3 is 2. So you undid the problem to solve for x. Well, looking at this problem over here, how would you solve this? Well, you got to ask yourself, well, what's happening to x? Well, x is being squared. The opposite of squaring something is square rooting it. So anytime you see a square root or a square in your problem, to undo it and solve for the value of x, you are going to square root that and the other side of the equal sign in order to solve. So to do this problem now, if you saw x squared equals 9, if I wanted to solve for it, all right, I undo what's being done. I undo what's being done to the x. So the x is being squared. Well, to undo squaring something, we square root it. So we square root both sides. And square root and square cancel out and just leave you alone with x, and that's what you want. And the square root of 9, now here's the thing that's going to be a little different. When you solve an equation that has a square root within it, your answer is not just positive 3, it's actually plus or minus 3. And the reason being is because both negative 3 and positive 3, if we were to put them back into the original equation and square them, if you were to go negative 3 squared and positive 3 squared, they both will give you 9. So in a square problem, in a problem where you're squaring, you actually get 2 answers. So you need to make sure that in your answers of a square, of a problem that has square in it, you have plus or minus. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to watch me do 16, and then I want you to try 17, 18. So here we go. In number 16, we have x squared equals 25. So we say, what's being done to x? X is being squared. Well, the opposite of square rooting. So we're going to go square root and square cancel out. So we get x equals, and now you're going to put this in your calculator. The square root of 25 equals plus or minus 5. And you have to remember it's plus or minus because it was a square root problem. All right, I want you to pause the video, and I want you to watch me do the rest of the answers when you're done. All right, here's number 17. So you square root both sides, and you're going to get x equals plus or minus 11. And then this one, this is cube root. So we're going to have to do the cube root. That undoes the cubing. So the cube root and the cube cancel out. So you're going to get x equals. Now in a cube root, you just get whatever answer it is. And this is just 3. Square root is where you get plus or minus. All right, so here's the deal. When you're finished here, please go to the sub or to your teacher and get your homework assignment. Okay, please, for my students, please be kind to the sub. If I get a bad report, trust me, this is not a threat. It is a guarantee. There will be problems that you will have to deal with. Have a great Monday, and I will see you on Tuesday. No.